Hey guys, welcome to another session of Epic 7 and my hero thoughts, initial thoughts series onto ML Luluca or top model Luluca. Now first things first, before I even get into this, when the Smilegate released the 3rd anniversary kind of like previews, you know, we got this Charles skin preview and we were all making all these speculations. We're just like, oh, is that a Luluca skin? Because I mean, it did not come across my mind that we'd see episode 2 heroes already going into the ML phase. I'm talking about the 5 stars, of course, going to the ML phase without the first episode being complete. So we still have Sigret left, we have Ludwig left, or Ludwig. I'm not quite sure if we're missing anything else. I think it's pretty much it. Yeah, I think so. I think I covered that before. That's pretty much it. We were still missing those, and so I was really surprised. I was like, okay, it is ML Luluca. So I mean, a lot of people were speculating that hey, it looks like Tenebria, it's like pink hair and stuff, and then I think a lot of people deduced that yeah, it had to be Luluca. Definitely looks a bit different in terms of like the facial expression. I think Ice Luluca looks cuter in my opinion. Like this one looks pretty hot, of course. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. You guys know Jagan likes his legs. It's got beautiful legs. I can't even continue. Blue Luluca I've come to love because of the lore, because of personality. I find she's really cute. I actually originally didn't like her design that much, but she grows on you, and she's got like these kind of like dorky eyes, which this one's a bit missing. So to me, at least, like from an artistic point of view, like the eyes, the angles of the eyelids, it does make her look more like not a Tenebria, but definitely not Luluca. It doesn't have the same dorky look. It's like the innocent eyes. I'll put it that way. Anyways, let's start off with the actual hero review and not talk about her. And never mind. 27% crit rate. She is a dark mage, Sagittarius. For those of you familiar with Sagittarius mages, I have gotten accustomed to it now because Vivian, my lovely Vivian, is a Sagittarius. Very high base attack. If you haven't checked out my Evelyn initial thoughts video, I talk about that. To do contrast their roles in the meta right now, I do think that top model Luluca probably has more to offer in terms of like a full composition where we are in PvP, the spectrum right now. I think there's more to offer, and not because of the extinction itself, but I'll explain. They have the same attack. So my point being that Evelyn and herself, although Evelyn is a thief, she is a mage, they have the exact same attack. 1228, health is very low. This is the same problem as Vivian. And the speed is at 115, which is very high base. You have seen a lot of people build like those like 230, 240, even 250 speed Vivians that can do damage. And I think that, you know what, with how ML Luluca is, I feel that that build is better transferred to her instead of on Vivian. But I'll talk about that in a bit. The defense is very high, 662. So having flat health, if you want her to be tanky, flat health would be good. Having percentage based defense subs would be beneficial for her, and like I said, for flat health, for the health, 27% crit rate, it will suffer a bit. Vivian is pretty tough to get 100% crit rate unless you are, you know, giving up some stats. Now Vivian herself has an imprint concentration of up to 16.8% crit rate, which makes her build a lot easier, I think, in terms of, you know, this. Top model Luke has 18% attack concentration. I personally don't think that you should chase it. Yes, it's 18% on a, you know, 1228. It's gonna scale pretty high, but it's not like the biggest chase. So if you are not a whale, I would not recommend you chase it super high. Although I would say that right now, her imprint concentration is probably still more valuable than Ice Luluca's imprint concentration. So I mean, if you have spares, by all means do it. If you don't want to use it on herself, you can even set up for your teammates with a 2-slot attack imprint at the 12.9%. Very solid. No effectiveness needed in her base, and that's fantastic. It's even better. You don't know what to do with it if you do have effectiveness. 27% crit rate, like I said, and then 150 crit damage, standard stuff. First things first that they've introduced in the video is the S2. Manifest the suit's energy, increasing combat ratings of all allies by 10%. If you maximal is 15% with the increased attack to the caster, so herself, for 2 turns, and grants the caster an extra turn. So already off the bat, that's very solid. You have a decent opener in her. 115 base speed is not the slowest. You can build her really fast if you just want that 15% CR boost. I would not recommend it though. 15% may not be quick enough to cut some of your enemies, depending on your team draft, of course. And the self-attack buff is good, but since you already get another turn anyway, you don't really need her to be like that fast, as long as you have a decent opening in her. So maybe 230 speed is enough, maybe 240, depending on the fight, of course, and your playstyle. S3 is Demolish. This is a single target skill, and it says transcends cosmic space to attack enemy with a dimensional energy before granting the caster stealth for 2 turns. This is very important, this is very key. When the enemy is defeated, inflicts extinction and decreases the caster's skill cooldown by 1 turn. Damage dealt proportional to the caster's speed. So the cooldown written here doesn't seem to be just the S3, but rather everything. So this is you minus 1 turn cooldown if you get to the +3, so it's a 4 turn cooldown, but it grants an extra turn. So you're already on the 2nd turn, so that cooldown's already reduced 1. So you have 3 turn cooldown. If you can kill on the S3, you have 2 turns left before you could do it again. So in terms of turn cycling, that's actually not bad at all. You could run her, like if you're just concerned about just turn cycling and having CR boosts and stuff like that, I mean, I think she could fit that role, especially if she's really fast. Atika Scepter might be good on her if you use her to do some sort of farming PvE thing, since it reduces the cooldown up to 50% chance if you have a +30 at the beginning of the caster's turn. So it could be good for her here. I myself, like when I used Melissa to farm for friendship, I use the Atika Scepter, just turn cycle way better because Melissa is able to grant extra turns. So that way you technically have 2 chances for Atika Scepter to proc, and if both of them proc, then you are reducing your cooldown significantly. Same things that can happen here for her, so that's fantastic. The stealth for 2 turns is very good. If you're in stealth, you do have damage mitigation from any oncoming damage as long as you're in stealth. If you get hit, like you're losing HP and get damaged, you do pop out of stealth. So pairing up with a barrier, something like an FCC, Bastion of Pelusia would be really good. I myself, I don't know why I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about her skills and how similar she is to Vivian in terms of like the stats. I think Dignus Orb might be my go-to for her. I mean, if I'm using Dignus Orb on Vivian, why not on top model Luluca? You get pretty much a Exorcist Tonfa effect after you use the S2, since it grants Dignus Orb grants, if you use a non-attack skill, it grants the barrier, and on the next following attack after, you get more damage out of it, at least up to an Exorcist Tonfa. Since she grants her own attack buff, that would be really good because then you can scale that barrier pretty high, and then she's in stealth, so she's protected from any AoE oncoming damage. If you're in that really thick barrier like you would in Vivian, if you haven't checked out my Vivian showcase, and I show off like I think a +21 Dignus Orb only, so only 102% of her self attack into her barrier. She gets a really thick barrier. My Vivian's about a 4k attack, so if you could do that for top model Luluca, you get that barrier, and then stealth keeps her damage mitigated, so the barrier doesn't go down quick, and then you still stay in stealth, you don't get knocked out until the barrier is totally demolished, and then you have HP lost. I like that theory craft the most in terms of like, if I can use Vivian in that sense to a successful degree, I know I can use ML Luluca in that way to a successful degree. But before I draw too many conclusions and only force people to look at one artifact, just keep in mind she is a mage. So being a mage gets a lot of benefits. You can use it to hold Toggle's Ancient Book if you're using her like almost strictly for a CR booster and not so much for the extinction part of it. And the book can be useful for everyone else on the team. Man, I love Toggle's Ancient Book now. Now that I'm playing more cleave comps, I'm running a lot more mages or control like debuffers and stuff like that. So Basar, Tenebria, Broman, Oxlots himself can hold a book. So many book holders, it really adds like so much to your fight. This is more or less talking about AI based PvP though, not so much RTA. RTA is a bit iffy on which heroes you want to have book on. You still want to have a couple mages on book, but she might not be the one to have book if you're running an RTA. But I'm just saying, like, if you're doing like a guild war fight or whatever, and you feel like, hey, top model Luluca is good, perfect for this, she might be your book holder. Maybe a Falconer Cleary, you know, top model Luluca team going into a Remnant Violet Ruel team, right? Like, that's very popular in guild war defense, at least at the point of this recording. So she could hold a book, boom, Falconer Cleary gets the debuff, defense break, bam, she kills because she gets self attack buff. S3, kill off the Remnant Violet Ruel, is just sitting there looking like a dum-dum. You know, stuff like that, right? So I mean, a lot of potential because she's a mage. And to continue on, yeah, so yeah, inflicts extinction and then decreases the caster's cooldown by 1 turn, like I said, and then damage dealt in proportion to the caster's speed. On the data mine is a 1.6 times mod for the S3. It has a 0.15 self speed damage. I played around with the damage calculator. Again, it's like hard to visualize this until you get real numbers. It doesn't make too much of a difference. A 30% speed is like 1000 more damage. So in terms of like chasing the speed, I wouldn't do it for the damage sake. I would do it more for how you want to use her, again, in your rotation of your hero skills. That's how I would think about using her speed. I mean, it's a nice to have. This is a nice to have, don't get me wrong. Having any sort of extra damage scaling will benefit, especially when it's an extinction skill. But to compare to other extinction heroes, I do have to make a drastic comparison because she is not the strongest one out there. You just have to kind of pick and choose which one you kind of want to use. So Specimen says, for example, has a 1.5 times mod on the S3, so the extinction skill. 1.5 times mod, he can use RNL, so if you get the kill, he can do it again. So Spez is, if you kill on the S3, you extinct, or you kill, you reset the cooldown. It's a 30% defense penetration, and if you're stunned, it's 100% defense penetration. So in terms of more usable, I think, in a lot more scenarios, and he's a thief, he has already naturally high base speed, and his attack is just as good. So, you know, you have that to compare. You got Lilibet, which now, you know, competes with these very high, she's a very high damage nuker, although she is earth elemental, so she will miss fire, obviously, but we don't really have many fire self revivers at the moment, except to, you know, mitigate Ruel from reviving or make Chloe from reviving. You're not going to bring her into a firefight and she won't have a problem. So into Arby's, she's no problem. Into Remnant Violet, not very much of a problem. You can slap on Oath Key, you can give her the her S3 already has a 20% hit chance, so that's 40% right there. And you can slap on like the one of the newest artifacts. I think it was like the Coco one, is the one with the chef. It gives up to a 5% hit chance for the full party, so you get up to 45% hit chance. That doesn't give Remnant Violet much advantage in terms of dodging, even without stripping his dodge buff, evasion buff. But Lilibet, you know, even if you're talking about not about evasion, if you're talking about just, you know, nuking on an RB or something like that, has a 2 times mod and up to a, I think it's a 2.6 times mod, something ridiculous like that. Hold on, let me pull it up really quick. Lilibet, yeah, 2.6 times mod with a soul burn, and the soul burn is only 10 souls to get it. Cigarette, on the other hand, is also really interesting as well. If you do pair with an Oxlot, she's an insanely crazy damage dealer. 1.7 times mod on the S3 for her extinction skill, and it has defense penetration. So like innate defense penetration. I think up to 80%, or is it 100%? I think it's something like that. Very high damage. So if you're talking about single target extinction heroes, I think with just Lilibet and Cigarette, you kind of cover the spectrum. Now with both of them, the only problem is that they don't really have much survivability. Lilibet a bit more because she can grant herself a skill null. Cigarette can't really. So you have to really finish off your targets quick, otherwise Cigarette suffers. This is where I think top model Luluca will shine. Although her extinction skill out of the 3 that I talked about technically is the weakest one, like in terms of like it won't guarantee your kill as like I wouldn't be like so confident in ML Luluca nuking out the target I need with the lackluster damage side of it. It just brings you more survival aspects, but like I said, if you pair it with the Dignus Orb, I think in terms of surviving you'll be really good. It's just that if you somehow miss, let's say 10% HP on the hero you were trying to extinct, you're kind of screwed. And then the problem is that, you know, that's going to be the main problem with her. That's what I think. Otherwise, very solid. Not saying it's really bad. I mean, her S3 animation is very good. Again, totally different. I mean, based on her background story, is that she is a regular Luluca, just dressed differently, if that's my understanding. But she looks like a completely different character. S1 Energy Blast. This is kind of an interesting skill. Yeah, so uses the suit's energy to attack the enemy. When used on the caster's turn, has a 40% chance to grant an extra attack with the same skill. So yes, you can't do that with a dual attack. When the enemy is not an elite boss or monster, damage sharing effects are ignored. That's a big one here. That's a big one for her, in my opinion. I mean, you're gonna get like basically twice the damage. Only 10 soul soul burn to grant this to 100%. Because it ignores damage sharing, that's a huge one. There's an Aureus or damage share now generally will be calculated within our damage calculation. When we're trying to theory craft like whether or not like a single target nuker or even a cleaver is good enough, we usually generally throw in like an Aureus effect in there. So 20% damage share out the window on the target you're trying to kill. I did some tests again with the damage calculator. ML Luluca, assuming that she's like pretty fast, I put at 4,000 attack, 280 crit damage with increased attack because she can do it herself on a 1500 defense target at 230 speed, and without damage share, she does 14,656 damage. Now if I do have like something like a Dignus Orb, that would go up to a 16,291 damage on those stats that I just said, and of course that's without damage share. I'm talking about the S3. The S1 is at 7,832 with those stats. So, but even if you do have a damage share, it doesn't really matter because it says that it does ignore damage sharing. So yeah, I'm just scrolling up damage transfer up to 20%. The S3 only does 13,000 damage now after Dignus Orb. So you can see where I'm a bit kind of skeptical. Yeah, you're gonna kill off, I guess, the squishier targets. They're not gonna achieve 1500 defense with 13,000 HP, but you might run into a problem. But based on the stats that I just gave, if you use the S1, you soul burn it, 100% chance to increase that double hit. That's 7,832 multiplied by 2, so 2 times. Because no damage share can help, or damage transfer can help reduce that. So that's fantastic. That's more damage than her S3. So her S1 is at a 1 point. It's a 1 times mod, I think. 1 times mod. So I don't think she's bad. Yeah, if you're gonna say like, you know where is she in the pulse spectrum, I say yes, Extinction is very important right now. I would say this, and compared to the other Extinction heroes, I can see myself using her into Remnant Violet Ruel sort of defense, because she can hold book. If it's in Guild War, the role compression is a bit tough because you might run into the third defense hero being like Spec Tenny. So you have to think about that, and in an arena defense it becomes a bit more easier, but assuming that you can get her turn before the Remnant Violet goes. So if the Remnant Violet is at 220 speed and you have like a 250 speed Falcon O'Cleary, you use her toggle the ancient book to burn, and you strip the remnant violet. If the remnant violet cuts before your Luluca, you're still sort of screwed, although he now has a defense break. So it just depends if he has that team has a barrier like from FCC, has Aureus. I'm talking about, you know, FCC's barrier, like maybe after she gets a turn or something like that. Like, are you able to nuke through it? So there's gonna be like some hit and miss. So for me, top model Luluca at this moment, we have Faithless Luluca banner. Luluca, the benefit we have there is that she's tried and tested. So we have proof she works into certain things. And I on the other hand, like, you know, some people are like, oh, I'm not gonna pull for Luluca. I don't have like 290, 300 speed gear. My argument is that Luluca packs more in terms of the supporter role. Even if you don't have that kind of speed gear, let's say you have 260 only, she's still a stripper, she's still a CR booster, she's still a skill resetter, and she has blind chance down on the S1. So in terms of ML Luluca versus her, I feel Luluca has more versatility. Now I'm only comparing it because their banners are going to be side by side, not comparing it because they do similar things, totally different. Hopefully you guys understand that too. But top model Luluca, I think she looks good. I'm always trying to separate myself from being like, am I hyped about the hero because they're new and they look like pretty, you know, pretty hot? I mean, I told you, man, those legs. Them legs, man. I don't know. I personally say that between the two banners, if they're side by side like this, I personally think that if you don't have Faithless Luluca, she's the better summon, to be honest. Oh, and then of course she grants skill null. I'm talking about Faithless Luluca. I forgot about that completely. Like, how many people use like FCC, not even for the barrier, but just for like a strategically timed skill null? You get that with Luluca. You don't get an AoE skill null. Only those two heroes at the moment have it, FCC and Luluca. So top model Luluca, although nice to have, the question is, I don't think she's gonna be meta. I don't think she's gonna be meta, and she won't change the meta that drastically, as long as you have the other Extinction heroes. But definitely nice to look at, definitely nice to have if you could pull her for cheap. But anyways, that will be my my thoughts on that. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Again, hopefully you guys enjoyed these series of these initial thoughts. Definitely let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Maybe if opposing views, which I often do come across people with opposing views, feel free to leave it, because you might be teaching me something, right? I might not be thinking about something that is blatantly obvious to some of you guys. So yeah, definitely leave it below and I will read it. I'm gonna end this for the video recording. If you guys have Discord, check out the Discord server. Follow me on Twitter, subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.